Super excited to start this. All right, guys. So today on the HVAC podcast, we have Daniel right here with Don't Sweat It, Air and Heat. Daniel, introduce yourself real quick to the audience.
Hey, I'm Dan Harnish, owner of Don't Sweat It, Air and Heat over in Melbourne, Florida.
All right, man. How long have you been doing HVAC for?
I've been doing HVAC for about 20 years, and I've owned my own business for about 10 of those.
20 years doing HVAC. Tell me about it. What is that? 2004?
Right? Yeah, that's about when I started.
All right. Don't get weird about this, but I was 4 at that time. So,
oh wow,
yeah. So when in 2004, what made you want to get in the HVAC field?
Actually, my brother-in-law mentioned like, hey, you should get into AC. It seems like a really good trade, and I was working for a grocery store at the time, so I decided to try to put out applications. I ended up getting my first job, and I just ended up sticking with it.
And like back then, like, and I don't know if it's the same way now. Like, do you have to go to school to get into HVAC? I feel like some companies prefer it that there is no prior training.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's like I think about it differently. I think about the time spent in trade school. Like I feel like that's years I could be doing on the job training and real world experience. So that's how I did it. I ended up just getting a job, just a low wage job at a AC company, and then just work my way up. So I get paid for learning.
That's good. Yeah. So you actually skipped school and you just went straight in.
Yeah, I skipped the trade school. I mean, I graduated high school and everything, went through all that, but yeah, I did go to trade school.
Okay. And you felt like that was more valuable. What was a very valuable lesson learning straight on? Did you learn anything valuable that you still, keep with you today?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the basic stuff. Like when I first got in there, I learned how to solder lines right away, and learned how to put together ductwork and install ductwork. And I've actually worked with guys that have done 2 years of schooling before they started, and I was the same age, and I was already making more money when they first got in there. I decided to get in.
Dang, there's a company out here, George Brazil, and I was coming back from the Diamondbacks game, and this guy, I overheard him talking. He's like, "Yeah, I just got a new HVAC job," and I'm like, "Oh, what company?" He's like, "George Brazil." And I'm like, "Oh, did you go to school?" He's like, "No, they just hired me right on with a sign-on bonus." And it makes me think, why are my generation, more importantly, do you feel like a lot of Gen Zers are trying to get into HVAC, or you don't see that?
I don't see it because like it's really like when I hire people, I've had hiring issues just trying to find people that want to work or at least show up to an interview. So I feel like a lot of the new generation isn't getting into trade jobs, or they're going more into like, I don't know, maybe like tech jobs or things like that.
Why do you think they don't want to get into the trade? Do you think they don't want to get into trades, or do you think that there's a lack of information about the trades? Because personally, I'm from Oregon, pretty liberal state out there. They took away, so they had college night and they had trade night. My sophomore year, they took away trade night, so they didn't highlight any of the trades, and there was really no push for me to do any of that. So
yeah, that makes sense. Like it does sound like it could be a lack of education about the trades. So yeah, and plus it's more physical work too. So it's a hard job, and sometimes there's late hours and you're working in, the elements, heat, rain, whatever you have to get the job done.
What's the most physical part about it?
Out in Florida, it's mainly the most physical part is the attic work. So I used to work for companies that you would have to work the attics in the middle of the summer. I don't do that to my guys, and I don't do that to myself because I've been there. But there are companies that'll work you in the attic, and you got to run the AC, but while you're doing the duct work. But it's still crazy hot, and I've had times where I've been throwing up on the job and everything because of the dehydration.
Really?
That's the most rough part. Everything else isn't that bad.
It's the attic stuff, huh?
Yeah.
What's going on up there? What are you doing up there in the attic?
Just pulling up like we're ductwork replacement. So basically, we would rip out ductwork and install all new ductwork.
Yeah.
And I for one thing, schedule that in the winter month. In the winter, it's not terrible. But it's still a tight spot, and you're falling around. It's still hard work.
Not for the claustrophobic. Okay.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
so you did that for 10 years, and then you decided about a decade being inside the HVAC business to start your own. I feel like a lot of people learn and then they start their own. But what made you want to do? Did you start Don't Sweat It, Air and Heat, or did you have another one before?
Started the Don't Sweat It, Air and Heat, and then I ended up a few years ago starting a all commercial AC company with a partner. But Don't Sweat It, Air and
Okay.
Heat's been years. So.
That's good. What made you want to start it?
I worked for plenty of people, and I didn't like the way I was treated. I didn't like, it was more of like a number, a means of making income. So like I didn't like that aspect. Like I would work crazy hours. I was being pulled away from my family. I had my son, 11 years ago, my first son, or 12 years ago now. So I was worried about being taken away, time away, working until 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock doing on-call service and all that. So I started my company because I wanted flexibility, and it started off a little rough. I was working a lot, but eventually I started making some changes, and now I got a more flexibility. I have more of a time frame of where I work. Don't work the weekends, don't be on call, and I got time with my kids.
That's good. That's it's very good that you noticed that. So you started your company when you're because you wanted a different way of life. Now,
Yep.
how was that? Talk about that first year. I imagine a couple people watching this are thinking about starting their own business, or they're in their first year, or even a 9 month, like they're like pretty new. What advice would you give someone that's thinking about making that leap, or they're currently in their first year?
I mean, as far as people making the leap, I would say get the license. Do the license. If you don't know the rest, you'll learn it as you go. And if an opportunity arises, you can't take advantage of it if you don't have the right license. So that was the first step I did. I got
Exactly.
the license. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. All I know is I eventually wanted to go that way, and I just didn't know when. And I had the license, passed the test and everything. And about a month later, I ended up getting an opportunity to quote on a 50 home housing project with like Section 8 housing. And I ended up winning it by like about 5 grand was the difference. So I ended up winning that bid, and that pretty much started my whole business from there. And then I just ended up, my boss gave me an ultimatum job on a Saturday that I had to do. And I'm like, hey, I can't do that. I actually got another job. I'm doing that. I can do it Sunday and do a service call. And he's like, well, either do the service call or return your keys. And I said, hey, let me call my wife, and called her, and we decided to just turn in the keys and just move forward with it. And then
Jeez.
yeah, so it was a pretty big leap of faith. But I'd say get the license. Like if you're considering starting your own business, get the license, and then things have a way of working out if you just oh, ready.
Get the license, guys. So I see this a lot is not knowing how to price your service. Some people want to price really high, some people want to price really low to get the jobs. Um, how when you started out, how did you figure out pricing and how'd that change over the years? Being a decade in, having your own
Well,
business.
the good thing is I did end up getting some service experience, so I had an idea of what the last company was charging. So I kind of felt similar to that. I adjusted it a little bit to kind of like some things I thought was overpriced, some things I thought was underpriced. So I kind of adjusted a little bit. I kind of within that. One thing I did do early was I did negotiate a lot with pricing, and sometimes you don't really need to do that. You end up making less money in the long run. So I kind of learned that as I went to adjust my price upward because I ended up finding out that I'm undercharging.
Oh, what would you negotiate? Like, would you negotiate with homeowners or
Yeah,
like
like homeowners, I get the price haggler that's like, oh, that's too much, and then I would cave. But then now, 10 years in business, I don't do that as much. So because it just creates a bad experience, and sometimes it's a bad experience for everybody.
You have that expertise. So talk about so when did you make that first hire?
The first hire, actually, I ended up. He doesn't work with me now, but it was a friend of mine that I used to work with,
Hmm.
and he ended up kind of like doing some sales. Like while I was still working on another company, he would do estimates for me, and then we would close an install, and then we go do the install on the weekend while we're switching to full time. And yeah, he worked with me for probably like 7 years. And then we had a little bit of a falling out, like around that 7 year mark, at a
Hmm.
kind of like a perfect storm of like, personal stuff and business stuff. So, but yeah, that was the first hire. And then, we kind of went from there.
Dang, dude. And ever since, how big's your team now?
It's not too big right now. I had to downsize for after COVID, and then I just had some
Hmm.
bad hires. Like it's just like I said earlier, it's hard to find really good people right now. So I had to go back in the field. I was out of the field for a little while, but I still managed my time well. So I'm still, sticking to that quality time thing. And I got one other technician that helps me, and then myself. And then I got an office person, and then the second company that I own that just does commercial HVAC. We have a crew of like 3 people over there, and my partner, and then we have an office person.
Okay. That's good, man. That's good. Look at that growth. So that's a big common thing I hear in the industry in HVAC, and actually any trade, anywhere right now that's trade, blue collar workers. What are you doing to overcome that? What are you doing to overcome the labor shortage and all this labor issues?
Really, there's not much we can do, or I haven't found out. I mean, we were using like different companies like Indeed, to be able to like get people, and then, but we were like our the applications that were being put through, we'd set up interviews, they wouldn't show up, no
Mm.
call, no show, or they'll call and say they're on their way, and then they still don't show up. So it's like a lot of like
Where'd they
weird
go?
that I've never dealt with before in my history of working. So we've actually found our workers through people we used to work with. So like the crew we have now, 2 of them, my partner's known for like years and years and years, and then one of them's a little bit newer, but he's worked out and he's been with us for like the last 4 years. So we've been fortunate with that, finding people that we've worked for and already have rapport for and already know.
Okay. Would you say your network's very important then when you if you were to make
Yeah,
the leap
yeah,
and
network is really important, and I wish I would have did more networking like group in the beginning because I just started going to BNI for a
mhm,
networking group.
shout out BNI.
Yeah, and that's been a game changer because I'm starting to meet contacts in there. There's opportunities, like for instance, this podcast was an opportunity, and then I actually found a business coach through there that's owned an HVAC company before, and I actually just hired him on. So I'll be utilizing his knowledge moving forward. But it's like, and then just knowing people to be able to recommend to your customers become a credible source when they need or some other trick. Oh, I got a guy.
Yeah.
You know,
No, the networking is very important, and that's one skill set that I learned very on like early on, growing up, and also just starting my own business. I realized how important the network was. But you said you got a business coach. Do most HVAC owners get a business coach or someone that's in their ear?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Like I've always looked at it as like, oh, what? Like I don't need a coach. It's just money I'm
Hmm.
I'm spending. So this is new to me. So I haven't done it before. A painter in my group recommended him, and he's used coaches before, and he says it helps. And so because I was an HVAC tech that started an HVAC business. I wasn't like I didn't work the office, so like
Yeah.
this is all stuff I'm learning on the fly, which you have to do because if you're not, nobody's ever going to be ready 100%. So you got to kind of take that leap of faith and be willing to learn and adjust and move forward. So part of my process right now is hopefully getting to that next level and maybe getting some knowledge from somebody that just owns a company for millions of dollars.
Yeah. So did you come to this business coach with a goal in mind, or were you just like, hey, I just want to see what you have to talk about?
Um, I'm kind of I'm kind of seeing what he knows, and I'm kind of looking at it as like this is a way to learn. Like if I
Mm-hmm.
got questions, I have somebody there, a mentor that I've that's been there before and that has some insight that I can't call like another AC company. Hey, what are you guys doing over there? Why are you guys getting so much work? So this is kind of like a way to be able to do that.
Do you feel like so you're a decade into this and you haven't had a coach before? This is like the first coach?
No, yeah. So I've been I've been doing okay for not having any experience with the business side when I started my company, but now it's like it's to the point where it's like I feel like I hit that wall. It's like I need like I need a little bit of experience.
That was the trigger where you're like some well, actually, what was the trigger? What was the trigger where you're like, I need like you realize you hit that wall? What was that?
It's just I think it's just getting a little overwhelmed and like realizing that I need to do more, but just really unsure of what that is.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like tracking numbers and just all the stuff that I should be really improved on within 10 years. I it's kind of one of those things where it's like talking to somebody that's been there. I just feel like it would definitely help me build some confidence there and to help grow the business.
Yeah, 100%. I value coaches. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I didn't have my coaches. One of them did say start a podcast, and I was like, I got to
Yeah,
do it, right? I'm really good at like short form content, so just whipping my phone out and recording. I'm really good at that. But they're like, if you really want to work with a lot of HVAC business owners, you need to have a podcast strictly for that audience, and you need to extract value so that people, HVAC business owners, can listen in and get something from that podcast, not from you, but just from the podcast. So I was like, oh, okay. So that's kind of where I'm like setting my vision for the next 3 years, just ripping these podcasts out, hopefully getting some big people on. There's a guy named what's his name? I have it. It's Gene something, but he's big in the HVAC field and he does a lot of sales. Gene Saber, that's his name. I
yeah,
don't know if do you know who
nice.
Gene Saber is?
No.
No? Okay. So see, there's always like new people I keep finding out about. So like when it comes to HVAC, homeowners wise, what's the biggest misconception in like your field right now?
The big misconception, I don't know about homeowners wise, but I feel like as far as business, I think the big misconception is like to have a company that's reputable and successful that you need to do 24/7. Like you need to be available 24/7. I ended up taking away the 24/7 about 7 years in, and the
Wow.
last 3 years have been going smooth. So it's just like I always thought that I had to be on call, Saturday, Sunday, but there's people out there that actually truly value your time. And I feel like if the industry just got together and say, hey, let's just not run our guys into the ground. Let's clock out at 5, and let the weekends off, the holidays off. And if we did that as an industry, people would buy portable units for their houses if their AC goes out. Stuff like that. They would adapt. But the problem is there's just so many companies out there that cater to that. And then next thing you know, you got technicians that are working till 9, 10 o'clock at night. Their families are falling apart, and all they care about is what money.
That they're
That's the
chasing
misconception.
they're chasing the dollar. That's very important actually that you brought that up because the work culture isn't healthy, and
Mm-hmm.
I've heard a couple HVAC business owners locally here. They say the industry is like a revolving door. You just have one tech come in, one tech come out, one tech one come in, come out, and I feel like part of that maybe because you're on call, you have that 24/7 service. So you personally, after you took out 24/7 service, have you seen the work culture be more positive?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a little bit. less stress, knowing that you have a time you go home, or if you want to make plans, you can tell your friends, hey, I'm going to be available after 5 this day, or I'm going to be available on the weekends. So like when I was on call all the time, and I was on call with a small company at the time, so I was working about 14 days straight. And it's like I had no life. I couldn't plan for anything. And then all my boss would say, it was like, well, just, you should be happy. You're making a lot of money. I'm like, yeah, but I have no time to enjoy it. So
Yeah. It's got to be it's
kind
got
of
to be
changed
healthy
things.
balance. It's got to be healthy balance because if you can have a lot of money, but if you can't enjoy it, you can't spend time with the wife, or kids, like you can't do much, right? And
Yeah.
if you're just giving your family all the money, they're enjoying it without you, and then they're going to learn how to
Yeah.
live without you, which is super sad, you know?
Yeah. It's definitely caused problems in my personal life. And those changes are made. Some of them may be a little bit too late, but, it's just, it's changes that had to be made. And I'm just hoping to be able to switch the culture, small business, but hopefully people follow.
Yeah, and when you're doing good stuff, they're going to talk about it. They're going to talk about how great you are as a boss. And I feel like that will help get you good texts because I do feel like a lot of people in the industry talk with each other and they're probably asking each other, "Hey, what do you get paid? Or what do you get paid?" Do you see that happening?
Not personally, but
Okay.
I can see how that is. I mean, when I was working, I used to do that.
Okay.
See if I needed to get a raise or anything.
Yeah, man. Do you feel like let's see. Do you feel like there's a lot of advice you can give to an HVAC owner or an HVAC tech right now? Because you've been both
Um,
seats. You've been in both seats.
I mean the HVAC tax is just like keep on learning. Knowledge is power. Just keep on learning and YouTube videos, learn sales. Sales is a huge thing. If you want to make good money, you got to be good at sales. Otherwise you're just going to get an hourly job where you're capped. But if you're good at sales, you can get a good tech job that's sales driven, and that's where you can make money.
How so you're saying a tech right now could work hourly plus commission, or is it one or the other? How does that work?
Sometimes it's both. I've been kind of like trying to figure out how I want to pay my guys. Like right now, I got a structure where it's hourly plus a commission. So they're not feeling like they need to sell because I don't want a bunch of salespeople out there just selling whatever just to sell. Like I want them doing their job and making
Yeah.
recommendations part of the system. Um,
So for the techs, keep learning, keep increasing that sales muscle. And do you know where they could go to, increase their sales, where to
Book,
practice?
start reading audible books like whenever you're driving the service van or get some earbuds, and just start listening to books on sales.
Do you have a favorite book on sales that has helped you in your journey?
I think I think of one right now. There's been a few. I haven't listened to them in a little while now.
Mm-hmm. Do you like any authors or any like there's like Grant Cardone, there's a whole bunch of guys. There's like Ed Milet. Do you
There's
listen to any of those guys?
Yeah, I've listened to him. There's one book in particular. Man, I should have got a book list ready before I got on here.
You're good, bro.
Um, I can't think of it. I'm
From
having
Grant
a
Cardone?
Yeah.
Is it the 10X one? That's the most popular one.
Oh, I remember that one. Yeah, I've listened to that one.
Or Sell
Like
or Be Sold.
8 years
There's that
old.
one.
Yes, yeah, I've read that one too. There's one book on think of it.
Well, if you come up if you hey you can always message it to me once you come up with it and I'll just slap it on top of
Yeah,
your
I
screen
know.
right here when I edit
There's
it.
a few of like game changers. I mean, for finances, like Dave Ramsey was really good for me because I
Yep.
was accumulating a ton of debt. So the money makeover was a big one for me. I listened to a bunch of help books, like for mental stuff because I mean, if you're running a business, I mean, mental stress and
You need
burnout,
it.
that's a real thing.
You need it,
So
man. Yeah.
just really paying attention to mental health because that it'll sneak up on you, won't even realize what's happening.
No,
Um,
mental health is important, man. So before we wrap up, I got two more questions for you. I want to make sure. So, how's everything in Florida? Because I'm in Arizona. It's less moist out here. Still gets hot, but how's the HVAC? How's the HVAC industry out there in Florida compared to Michigan?
I don't really remember too much about Michigan because I was like a helper there. I
Okay.
was like really young in my career, but Florida's been good to me. I mean, the hot, the hot, humid climate. Summertime's usually busy, and honestly, like the wintertime gets a little more mild. You're doing a lot more maintenances and stuff that time of year, maybe some duck jobs. But it's so busy in the summer that I actually welcome the mild climate in the winter, kind of get a little breather and kind of regenerate and get ready for summer again. So I like
So
it. It's kind of really good.
okay, so busy summers, slower winters. What do you do to stay busy in the slower winters?
We try to schedule. I mean, we maintenance contracts are a big thing. Like I try to get those all year round,
Good.
and it helps during the summer because it gives me something to do and gives me gets my foot in the door another time of the year during the slow season. And I try to push duck jobs. So if I sell a duck job during the summer, I'll try to get a down payment, like just a small like a $500 deposit or something, just to lock in a day, and then I'll try to schedule in the winter, and I'll start trying to book those up. So that's how I get work during the winter month.
Okay, that's good. And then staying on that topic of like how are you getting work? How have marketing wise, how have you been able to get more jobs and keep growing your business?
So marketing, I kind of toned down a lot of the marketing in the last couple of years, but trying to do the networking's been helping. That's been getting my name out there from
Mm,
reputable businesses that are referring me. So that's really helped. If it's slow and I'm not seeing much traction, I'll use a pay per lead service like Angie's Leads. Like I'll use that periodically because you can turn it off and turn it on. You're not committed,
yeah.
to keep it on. But that can get pricey. Like if you're not hitting the leads, that can get real pricey. It's a little bit of a gamble. So
Have
I
you
don't like
done
that, but
have
you
you
know,
done local service ads before?
local service ads like
Google's local
oh
service
yeah,
ads?
yeah, Google local service ads. Like I don't get a lot of traction from that, but when they do come in, they're good leads.
Hmm.
Like they're actually leads of people calling.
Yeah,
So I
and
got that turned on all the time.
that's what I try to educate a lot of my shot guys on. It's Angie's Leads is good because you do pay per lead, but at the same time, you're also kind of bidding against a whole bunch of other people, and
Yep.
they're sending that lead to 10 other companies, right? So now this lead's getting bombarded by the one of the 10 of those guys gonna be really aggressive. So it's gonna keep answering, and then you got
Yeah.
you're
So
fighting a lot.
you get like in a little bidding war, but I've been trying to do like service leads because if you get the lead, usually you get the job if you're the first one calling. But the install leads they get like super pricey
Oh yeah.
and they're competitive and a lot of times they don't call and a lot of times they're bad leads and you have no way of really realizing it's a bad lead and they don't call because they didn't
Do,
want your service to begin with.
do you feel like a lot of the service calls and service leads end up turning into like recurring customers and just those
They
eventually turn
have.
into an install and replacements?
Yeah, they have, and then you can ask for reviews, and they can review on that website and everything. So yeah, I've gotten a lot of customers from them at the beginning, and that's really what helped me at the beginning. It's getting that because I was the lower guy at the beginning, but as soon
Yeah.
as I started raising my prices up, it's a little bit harder to get those jobs.
All right. So started with networking and then started with Angie's Leads, did a little bit of local service ads, and now you're hammering down the networking, which I feel like the referral business is just the best.
I
Because
think so too.
if you have a referral right away, you're like, oh, I trust you, and I really won't ask too many questions because it's from a trusted source. Well, thank you, man, for being on the podcast. Any last pieces of advice for anyone in the HVAC industry before we hop off?
Just keep working hard, don't give up, and get licensed before you know what you're going to do with your business. Because that's the first step. You're going to have to get that eventually anyway. And I did find that book that I wanted to recommend. It's called The E Myth Revisited.
The E
That was
Myth.
that was a pretty good book. It got me thinking more about like creating systems for people to follow instead of just like all over the place.
SOPs, the way to do it. Well, thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. And if you're in Florida, make sure what part of Florida?
Melbourne, Florida.
If you're in Melbourne, Florida, make sure to hit up Don't Sweat It Air and Heat. Thank you so much. Bye.